This is Election Talk. Election Talk with attorney Carrie Harper on Radio Free 102.3 KJLH.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, beautiful people. Yes, it is 0:30, and we are here on Election Talk. I'm Carrie Harper. I'm a civil rights attorney, locally based. I may be locally based, but my hometown is Michigan City, Indiana. I am straight out of Indiana, which, when I say it's a beach town, you may not believe me, but it's actually a beach town. And if you look across the water, we can see the skyline to Chicago. Speaking of Chicago, anybody hear anything about Chicago last night? It was on fire. The Democratic National Convention was fire. It was energizing. It was exciting. Woo, it's a breath of fresh air because a month ago, I'm sure a lot of folks was daytime drinking after that debate. I hate to keep saying it, but it was really kind of that bad with Biden. We love him. God loves him. He did great last night, passing the torch to Kamala Harris, who's going to be potentially our next president. I know I might supposed to be a little bit objective, but it's hard to be objective with this kind of energy. It was just great. We had great speakers, great information. It is 77 days till the election. So we're going to give you more great information. We have a couple of guests, one guest in studio. We have one calling in. And if you know anything about me, I believe it's all about the judges. Okay, it's all about the judges. So we are going to have a judicial candidate who's in studio with us. We're going to give you a little bit of election information. We're going to talk about Prop 36. You guys might have heard a little bit about Prop 36, which is changing things up a little bit from Prop 47. We'll get into that with a second guest and talk about a little bit more election information. You guys know that if you want any details that you don't know, you can go to lavote.gov. You can call into that location or go to the website. Also, you can call the station, 310-520-KJLH, 310-520-5554. So we do have the phone lines up and running, and we're anxious to take calls. Our judicial candidate is anxious to answer them, as well as our second guest. So let's get to it. Let's talk about Tracey Bolunt, who is running for seat 137. She's been rated well qualified by the Los Angeles County Bar Association. She's been an attorney for more than 20 years, including 12 years of daily courtroom appearances as a trial counsel handling child abuse cases and neglect cases. She also graduated from UC Berkeley, so it seems like she's a brainiac on top of all that. She works at the county counsel's office in the sheriff's legal advisory unit, county counsel. So that would be the counterpart to folks suing the county for stuff. But we're not going to get into that right now.
Yeah. Please.
So good morning, Tracey Bolunt. How are you this morning?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
Oh, blessed and highly favored, especially after that energizing song, right?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
Thank you, Lord, for all you've done. It's a good day. So tell me, why do you want to be a judge?
Well, I want to be a judge. First, I'll say this. I work for county counsel's office, and I started as a paralegal in the sheriff's unit. And then I went to dependency, which is child abuse and neglect law, basically. And that's where I've been for my career since paralegal, except for 1 year where I went to the DA's office because I was waiting for county counsel to hire me.
Oh, so, that was smart to give him a little reason to hurry up, right?
Exactly.
I hear you.
I want to be a judge because in dependency court, you're basically in court every single day. You have trials every day. It's hard work. It is emotional, and the attorneys in dependency court are some of the best because they're grinding it out every single day. When you're in court like that every day and you're in front of a judge every day, you see what they're doing. You learn what their responsibilities are, especially in dependency court, I would say, because the judges not only are hearing all the cases, but they're the trier of fact. There's no jury in there because it's confidential. So the judges have the weight of understanding what all these families are going through, trying to get a child back to their family, to a healthy home. And on every issue they have, that there's a trial, they have to decide on it. So over the 12 years that I was in court every day, you learn, you grow, you understand what this judge is doing and how they're serving, most importantly, how they're serving the community. And, I'm a public servant now. I'm a government attorney, but kick it up a notch when you're a judge, especially in dependency court. So, and I was in front of some of the best judges, I feel. So.
And you still are, right?
And I still am. So, you learn, you understand what service is, what real service is. And that's why I want to be a judge.
So break down some of the terminology you use for the listener. When you say in dependency court, some folks might think that that's somebody's under the influence a little bit. Well,
I hear what you're saying.
What does that mean? That means you're over the folks who are foster parents and things like that?
Dependency law is child abuse and neglect law, in essence. I mean, you're dealing with child abuse and neglect cases. As an attorney for county council, we represent the county of LA and the board of supervisors and the departments of the county. So in my job, I would represent the Department of Children and Family Services.
The department that would take the child out of the home.
And there's a whole process to that. Social workers have to request permission to do that. They can't just go in and, contrary to what people think, there's some idea. They just go in and take the child. They don't do that. There's a process in place. They have to get permission from a judge and go through all of the procedures before they can do that.
Or unless an officer on views actual neglect and process, they can detain the child and then call for a social service worker, correct?
You're talking about like law enforcement?
Yes.
Law enforcement can do that, but the department has to do its own evaluation. What law enforcement does and what DCFS does are two different things. Because law enforcement is looking at crimes, DCFS is looking at child safety. So they have to do their own assessment. And if there's a home, that's fine. And, maybe the child is the issue, then they have to assess that. But they're not going to just take the child out of the home.
Sure.
Yeah. So there's a lot to it. It's a very specialized area of law. In fact, if a private attorney goes into the court to represent someone, the court will ask that person, have you been here before? Do you understand what we do here? Do you understand you can't just take this case and drop it? Things like that, because of how specialized it is. So
because some attorneys actually take the cases and kind of jump out.
They want to, yeah, because these cases can last for years.
Forever, right?
Yeah, they can. But the goal is reunification. We don't, in our courts, we don't incarcerate people. We're trying to get a healthy family back together, and the judges really care, and they're really trying to do that, and so are the attorneys. So hopefully this conversation will get rid of some misconceptions out there.
And sometimes the reunification can take years, right?
Yes, it can.
3 years, and all that time the family is bonding with the foster parents.
All that time, it's not. The last step is a foster home. The first step is, can this child go home safely? If not, can the child be with a relative that they know? If not, a family friend who they know. So it's all about keeping the child kind of insulated, safe, and, stable, because it's traumatic. It's traumatic to take a child out of their home. So you don't want them to go, from home to somebody they don't know.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that's why you were saying earlier that it's heartbreaking, some of the work that you're doing, because it's emotional. You get emotionally involved with these cases, yes?
Yeah. I mean, just what you're reading every day, it's heavy.
Right.
And You're reading about child abuse and neglect. So it could be a child left in the car and is hot, or a child that, has died and now their siblings are before the court because of, I don't know, mom's boyfriend killed the child, things like that. Now the siblings aren't safe in that home. And so it's everything. It runs the gamut.
How do you process that? Such heaviness?
When I started, my lead attorney told me there are going to be days where you feel heavy and you don't understand why. It's because of this. It's because of the weight of what you're doing every day. You just have to go home, wash it off, do something fun, watch a movie, get your mind off of it.
Because you can't just go home and leave it there. Or go home and leave it at work. You're going to take it home with you. Do you think that'll be more so or less so if you're blessed enough to make judge?
I think that it's the same. I think that it's the same weight, the same responsibility. More so, because as the judge, especially in dependency court, you're making the decision about this child and their placement and their life, and this family's life for a period of time. And that's a heavy responsibility.
Right, because the buck stops with you, and making that decision could...
Making a good decision for this child,
right,
to make sure that they are stable and getting their services that they need, and that the family is receiving services, so they can reunify. But for a period, if there is a case open for a period, there's going to be some, upheaval in the family. And that's hard for kids. So always we're thinking about, this case isn't just a case number. There are kids attached to this. That's how I view it. And so I have to make sure that it's moving along. I'm doing my part to move it along so that this child can get where they're supposed to be.
And I've asked some of the other candidates what they feel about the judge being the 13th juror, like putting his or her thumb on the scale and affecting things when you have a jury trial, because you normally would have a jury trial, but as you said, dependency court, the judge is the one, that heavy is a head that wears a crown. So you have to really have...
Exactly. The judge is the trier of fact. I mean, because these cases are confidential because they're about kids. So the public's not allowed in, and we can't share things, without the court's permission. And so the judge is making that decision on each and every case.
So we really have to keep the judges specifically in prayer in this section, even more so than other sections, because their stuff is secret. We don't know what they're doing behind them.
Even more so.
Right.
I can assure you, since I've been in this arena, this court system for my career, some of the best judges are there because they know and understand the weight of what they're doing. So,
and they have a different energy. They have like celebratory things. They celebrate, kind of like the diversion. What is the court where they give you? They bring in cakes. They celebrate.
Like drug diversion programs and things like that.
It was such I only went a couple of times but it was such a happy little diversion from the heavy felony.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what? We try to keep it as light as we can because of the weight of, the heaviness of the subject.
Right.
So, I mean, everybody has good humor, and, we all, for the most part, you're working together every day. So you know who you're working with, the judge you're sitting in front of and how they are. And we all try to just work together to solve whatever the problem is.
Sounds like great teamwork. Do you think that you're doing such important work there that they can afford to lose you? That's a trick. Well, that's a trick question.
You know what? I actually haven't been in court for the past several years because I'm at the warrant desk, which is the part of the very front end of the case, and that's the part of the process where you're asking the judge's permission. So it's kind of like a search warrant. You're asking permission to go into the home to say, I need to take this child out of the home because it's not safe right now. And then the judge will grant the request or deny it, depending on what the evidence they have to support it.
Okay. Well, tell us what you look forward to. I was going to say look forward to the least, but I'm not going to put you on that. Tell us some of your endorsements.
As you said at the beginning, I've been endorsed by the, it's not an endorsement, it's a vetting process. The LA County Bar vets us all, and they will say you're either not qualified, you're qualified, well qualified, or exceptionally well qualified. Fortunately, I was deemed to be well qualified.
Which is the second highest one you can get.
Which is the second highest one. So
that's pretty admirable. A lot of controversy, though, about the LA County Bar Association, because when you say all of us gets vetted, everyone actually does not get vetted.
Well,
Steve Cooley's daughter, Shannon Cooley, was not vetted. She did not get a rating from the LA County Bar Association. Well, and I think Victor Avila, who ran against Natasha, and forgive me, Natasha, if you're listening, all we had to do was write in the Natasha's name, not the last name.
That's right.
But when they're unopposed, they don't get vetted. What if these people are under investigation with their department, about to be fired? I mean, we know Shannon Cooley had a dad who was a DA, but we don't know her background. We don't know anything about her. So she didn't even get a rating. So, and we'd love to get Jerry Abels on. He's still in charge of the LA County Bar Association, right? We'd love to get, you're nodding. They can't hear you nod, but.
I'm not familiar with
Jerry Abels
specifically.
But so we'd love to get him on to explain why everyone is not vetted. Everyone is not given a rating. I know that nationally, I believe Joe Biden stopped looking to the ABA for their ratings for the federal judges because of the controversy in rating. So
I have heard that. I've heard, and I know that you're right. There are a couple of people, at least one that I know of that was running who was not vetted, and it was her choice, I understand, that she didn't want to be a part of that process because, there is
controversy,
I guess, about is it fair? Is it biased against, minorities?
Lack of diversity
like
on the committee. And if you have private counsel that aren't part of the DA's office or the public defender's office, then and you have all these agencies represented by them, how do they really get a fair shake? I mean,
all I can say is the vetting process that I understand it to be is based on the information I provided. I had to tell, and I had plenty of cases to provide in my career, and they contacted people who I was opposing in a trial, judges that I appeared before. So it wasn't just, hey, give me all your friends and I'm going to call them and everybody's going to say something nice. It was people who I went up against in court.
Sure.
And they can say whatever they want. And people told me, and I said, tell the truth. Whatever that is, if you had an issue, if you didn't, that's what you have to say.
Well, kind of like what you say. I hear what you're saying, and I can see why you're saying that. But kind of like what you were saying earlier, that you really work together, even with your counterparts. You're going to see these folks every day because you're working there every day. If your private counsel coming in, just like you said, the judge had to admonish them, hey, you're not just going to say hi and bye, you're going to stay. That person doesn't have the benefit of getting to know everybody in that department. So, so you're actually at a benefit if you go in every day. You all are like a family because even though you're going against each other,
that part might be true. But like I said, I had to give, I think, 5 cases that, with everybody on the case. In independency court, there can be 4 or 5 attorneys. It's not just plaintiff's counsel, defense counsel. It's me for the department. It's each parent has an attorney and the kids have an attorney. So there can be, and if there's more than one dad, each dad will have an attorney. So there can be a whole bunch of us in there. And private counsel, when they come in, you're right. They might not have the benefit of knowing all of us, but they also aren't going to be deferential, to anybody. So if they have an issue with anybody, including me, and the LA County Bar contacts them, they're going to say something.
And you're endorsed by other agencies as well. Do you want to let the listeners know
Sure.
what those are?
The LA County Democratic Party, the Los Angeles Times, numerous Democratic parties, Torrance Democratic Party, Stonewall, New Frontier, Citizens for Accountable Leadership, the African American Women's PAC,
Law PAC?
Law PAC. God, I can't think of all of them.
A lot.
Quite a few, yes.
And
they all vetted too. They have their own process.
Okay. And tell the listeners how they can reach you. We had another guest that was on, George Turner Jr. was on last week.
Oh, okay.
And he gave his information out. And, a lot of the websites with the judges, they don't have a contact page. They have a page where you could subscribe to their newsletter or donate. But it would be great if there was like an email address or a number. I know you don't want to give your direct number out, but maybe one of those Google whatever numbers so that, folks actually want to talk to you and, unpack it. I'm not asking you for it right now on the spot.
Okay.
I'm just making a general statement because sometimes hard for us to get in touch with them because they don't have their information on, and we don't want to call your agency because you can't campaign at your respective departments, right?
True.
So if anybody's out there making these websites, make it easy on sister so we can contact these folks. But anyway, we have another guest coming up who went to the same college as you, Laverne College for Law School.
Okay.
Yeah, he's coming in. So do you want to tell the listeners how they can reach you and get on your website?
My website is Tracey Bolunt for Judge. That's Tracey Bolunt, my whole name, FORJudge.com. And my email address is tblunt, T for Tracey, Blunt, the number 4, judge @gmail.com. And I look at that every day. Okay. So anybody can feel free, and people have reached out to my email address and asked me questions, and I respond to them.
Okay. Do you want to stick around for a while in case we get some callers calling in?
Sure.
All right. So next up, unless we have a break. We have a break. I'm told from the guy pushing the ones and twos. I said it wrong, didn't I? See, when I try and skip out of my lane. Not pushing the ones and twos, Carrie. On the ones and twos. It's a throwback to the 2 turntables. 1 2 1 2, right? That's where it came from. All right, good. So we're gonna cut to break and come back. We're here at KJLH 102.3 FM.